Well, hell, and good evening. Let's move a few things here. So, a little bit of adjustment there. Still not sure what this is. Got something goofy. Anyway, man, been a long week, and it ain't even started yet. Feels like Monday lasted for 4 days. If you had to be around here. Oh, I got to get situated. So, needless to say, as the title reads, I have gotten pretty damn frustrated with the whole nonsense. See if that cut's got it. There we go. With that whole nonsense of yet again this conspiracy crap being reignited by people that ought to know better. I had some respect for DutyRon. I'm not going to say it's totally gone, but man, I don't know what that whole thing was supposed to accomplish with you having those guys come on and answer questions, and then you just turn around and talk out of both sides of your mouth and insinuate there's some underlying conspiracy that's just not there. Every question, and I mean every question, not some questions, all of them have been answered multiple times. And why on earth there are so many people who want this to be a conspiracy so bad that they're willing to just ignore the truth, ignore facts, ignore common sense, ignore likeliness, is beyond me. I've just never seen a case where people are just literally going out of their way to try to insinuate some conspiracy. You know, a lot of times we don't have closure. We don't have evidence. We don't have anything showing us that there we go. Now I see what it is. Let me fix that. It's driving me nuts. That's much better. They go out of their way to perpetuate nonsense when this case we have closure. We have evidence. We have a video showing what happened. And what happened? Well, the most likely thing. That's what happened. The absolute most likely thing that could have happened is what happened. Not some TV show, not some mystery movie, not some SoundCloud rapper's sleep deprivation trip, not some true crime podcast, cartoon style Scooby-Doo conspiracy theory. What happened was the most absolute likely thing that could have happened. A simple auto accident. Now, tragic, very tragic, but an auto accident nonetheless. And so I want to touch on a few things. And listen, I'm going to use a few clips from DutyRon. I hope he's okay with that. Listen, you guys should go watch that interview in its entirety on his channel, DutyRon, on YouTube. Retired New York investigator, and pretty intelligent guy. So I would urge you, if you don't subscribe, if you're into true crime at all, that's one of the channels to probably watch, where you're going to get the most common sensality of the madness. Unfortunately, I'm just a little disappointed because when I first saw that, if you're listening, Ron, that you were going to have these guys on and settle some things, only to just listen to you talk out of both sides of your mouth and rebirth it, I'm just stunned. Because you, of all people, Ron, should have respect for the law enforcement officers that were on the ground there from 3 different departments. I mean, you at least owe them the benefit of the doubt. You were a New York City police detective. Do you think an entire department would work to conspire to cover up a girl's demise? Do you really think that? Do you think anybody in the Nevada County Sheriff's Department or the Truckee Police Department or the California State Highway Patrol, do you think anybody in those organizations would be happy to close this case without vetting the evidence and the facts before closing the case? I mean, you don't have respect for any of those departments, anybody in those departments, although you were a police officer yourself. I have to question that. And to the 2 guys that used to be with the channel we don't name anymore, that find people in the water, you guys ought to know better than to continue perpetuating this conspiracy. It's like none of you know that this child had a family, and they hear everything you're saying. They're modern people with electricity. They have YouTube. And I can tell you firsthand, they're watching. So for this continuing cast doubt on information that's already been debunked more than once, is just, it's disappointing. I can tell you it hurts their feelings. And I can tell you that nobody in Truckee appreciates all these low-level channels out there accusing their high school kids of heinous crimes, or the class of 2022 of heinous crimes. Because it's just absolute utter nonsense. There isn't a shred of evidence to back up any of these conspiracies. There's a mountain of evidence, irrefutable evidence, pointing to it being an accident, and 3 separate departments and 2 independent coroner reports. All say it was an accident. The people that live there say it was an accident. The family says it's an accident. Her friends, people in her community say it's an accident. The evidence says it's an accident, and there's a video showing the accident happen. Yet, you guys want to cling to this ridiculous conspiracy crap that has no evidence, just wild, out of this world, cartoon Scooby-Doo level conspiracy shit. It's just irresponsible, man. There's very real people. There's a federal lawsuit. The family is engaged in a federal lawsuit over the slander in this case. And there should be a couple of other people brought into that suit. And everything I hear, that's a very real possibility. And I can't wait to make my I Told You So video, especially after being harassed for telling the truth, harassed for being the only rational voice being harassed for defending this family's good name and all her classmates, her friends, her best friend, an ex-boyfriend that although they weren't dating anymore, and he broke it off with her, he loved her as a friend. And you people keep accusing them of doing something to that girl without a shred of evidence. Not a shred. Just your wild speculation while you ignore real facts.
Video from
I'm going to play this little clip here.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going from the chat to these questions, and I'll get through these quickly. This one comes from Xana May. She's a channel member, and she was involved in this because she was actually at the process reservoir on a big boogie board or something, and she took some video on her YouTube channel. She said, "Did you observe, this is to you, Nick, any recreational activities such as campers or people being out on the waterways from while you were doing your diving and searching?" I don't know why she wants to know that, but I promised everybody I would ask the question. So there's that question.
Yes. In fact, it was just another day at the lake. There was people, playing with their dog, throwing the ball out into the water, playing fetch with their dog. There was paddle boarders.
There was actually either a couple or a group that were parked right on the top of that ridge there too.
Right at the peninsula.
Right at the peninsula. I think people are starting to refer to it as Kylie's Peninsula or something.
Kylie's Point or something like that.
But Kylie's Point.
Yeah, they were parked right above us when we started to find the images of her vehicle.
Yeah, it was just a normal day at that point. Remember, this was like 2 weeks after she had went missing, and so there was all kinds of people camping and just going on like it was another day at the lake in the summer.
So you know who you are. You know, the rock solid evidence, the irrefutable evidence, the facts are that lake had been searched, the park had been reopened, and the park was being used daily by the people who live there, who use it daily. It sees over 300 people a day, that area. Over 300 people a day go to that area every single day. And so for you guys to continue to cling to this nonsense, we're a SoundCloud rapper paid money to go on podcast and just start accusing random people of being suspects, putting words in their mouth that they didn't say, right? Just total words in their mouth they didn't say. And then totally dox them, use their real name, their real address, and start accusing them of all kind of heinous crap involving this case. And then clinging to this nonsense that because she went there and made a YouTube video like several other people were doing, that somehow makes her a suspect is just utter nonsense. And if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would give her the money to sue the shit right out of every one of you. That's a hell of a thing to say about somebody. So loose-lipped. When you know where it came from. Where did it originate? It didn't originate from the police. It didn't originate from any evidence. It originated from a SoundCloud rapper, a mediocre YouTuber who just pulled it out of his ass. Just pulled it right out of his ass. And yet I'm seeing live streams as recent as 2 days ago of this girl continually being accused. And it's utter nonsense. In the video where she's accused of paddling over the body and whatever that would mean, I, in that video alone, counted 14 vehicles. But see, I'm not being willfully ignorant. I'm not being willfully ignoring the facts so that I can build a conspiracy around these ridiculous notions. I'm digesting the facts. There were people all over that damn place. And you just heard the two people that were there diving tell you the same thing. The park was reopened. She was there for a planned trip. She went to that park to make a YouTube video like everybody else was doing. She's clearly a kayaking enthusiast long before anything happened to that child. So, and believe me, every time you guys say that, the family rolls their eyes. The kids that live there, her friends, her peers, her classmates, roll their eyes at you at the level of ignorance it takes to keep perpetuating that nonsense. It's you make yourself look dumb and you make Upchurch look dumber than shit. Because that's where it originated from. His mouth. You're supposed to be some big fan of his. You make him look like a fool every time you repeat it. And then to suggest that another YouTuber was in on it too because of a purple light and moving letters around in his name and spelling words different. Coming from somebody with pupils the size of dinner plates. So that's why she asked the question, DutyRon, is because she was accused by Ryan Upchurch of doing something to that child because she went to that lake with her kayak. And she just so happened to be on one of the podcasts he paid money to come on and push his cartoon conspiracy that's now got him in a federal lawsuit. And it was a very cartoon, Scooby-Doo level conspiracy that was so open-ended and loose-ended it didn't even make sense. And in fact, cost him over 2/3 of his fan base of people that were there from the start. And then the encouragement of fans to continue to harass and bother and go after innocent people or people that had sense enough to say this is bullshit. So enough with that nonsense. That should clear it up. Wasn't unusual for anybody to be at that park. And in fact, there were lots of people there, lots of people on the water. So out of all those people on the water, why is she the suspect? Well, because some SoundCloud lapper I like said so. Where'd he get it at? Well, he just pulled it out his ass. Ain't that so? Ain't that so, Schwartz? Fred Schwartz. He was one of the people that did it too. In fact, he put the idea in Upchurch's head. So, needless to say, moving along with some of the other issues I had with this interview.
So many thousand man hours, multiple dive teams. Now, when we got there, I didn't see any other dive teams on site. I think they had already done their searches and considered that lake clear. So, and I'm sure there's going to be multiple people asking the same question as far as the whole suspicious thing. When I found that vehicle on sonar, it stood out like a sore thumb. It was in plain sight. And so part of what was suspicious to me is like, how is it possible that I just found something that stands out like a sore thumb when they've already scoured this lake for many, many hours with dive teams, apparently sonar and whatnot, and they didn't find her? So part of in my brain is what makes that suspicious is we still don't know. Is there not a possibility that once it was searched and cleared, that then the vehicle was put in the water?
Jesus. Ooh. You, of all people, ought to be aware that people end up in the water in their cars all the time, and the police don't find them. In fact, it happens so often that yourself, the guy sitting beside you, multiple other people make a living finding people who ended up in the water and the police couldn't find them. So why you would try to continue to perpetuate a ridiculous conspiracy that has long been debunked, and even the family knows better, blows my mind. It's not only the fact that you should, of all people, should know that the police aren't experts with sonars. They don't have side scan sonar. They don't have no man hours on the equipment. It's probably outdated. And they probably use it once or twice a year if they're lucky. And they probably had a 1 or 2 hour crash course on some donated equipment. But there's even a better reason. But let's listen to a little more first.
I'm just,
and that's not to add speculation, but it's just kind of crazy how they would have missed it. Now, the other side of this is that, the water level went down a little bit, like a couple feet.
Okay. It just aggravates me that I even have to do this. I'm not even a true crime guy. I'm not an investigator. I'm not a scuba diver. I'm just some damn knucklehead mechanic. But 2 feet of water is not a little bit. 2 feet's a lot. And it wasn't 2 feet. It was about 3.5 feet. It had rained to beat hell for the week before the party. It was good for about 4.5, 5 days. And then the second day after the party, it rained to beat hell. And the lake was up about 3.5 feet and full of sediment. Not clear. And in fact, that was all discussed. The police on the scene showed how the rain had washed the tire tracks away. They showed where the old watermark used to be, how high the water was. And the water was up the bank about 3 feet higher than it was the day you guys got there 2 weeks later after it hadn't rained once. And they had actually opened the dam gate and let water out to refill a reservoir due to it not raining. So the water, by the time you guys got there, was ultra clear and at its lowest point. When the police were there searching for her 2.5 weeks earlier, it was up 3.5 feet and full of sediment from rainwater. And no, 2 feet's not a little bit. And it was even more than that. It was like 3.5 feet. So it just shocks me that you would say, oh, the water was down a little bit. No, that's not true. It was down a lot a bit. Over 3 feet. The police were dealing with high sediment in that water. And in fact, you can look at it on Google Maps. Oh, God. These questions that people have, they can answer themselves if they just quit wishing it was a conspiracy and just wanted an answer. If you just want an answer, the facts are there and you can get your answer. If you want it to be a conspiracy, then I guess ignore all that stuff and invent shit. Unbelievable that I'm listening to two professionals perpetuate some ridiculous cartoon level theory shit. You guys are insinuating a bunch of high school kids did something to a girl, took her somewhere, then brought her back and put her in the water while the whole damn town and world's watching. Do you understand how silly that is? And the problem is, here's the problem. Okay? There's people out there that believe that. And they're never going to stop believing it, and they're going to continue to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Let me pull this up.
Since they
Now, let me go here. We'll go ahead. Let me pull this down. I can't hardly see tonight, man. My glaucoma is racing. So, let me go here. So, you can clearly see that you've got this large brown edge that goes all around that lake. This stuff had already this stuff has been discussed ad nauseum. But because you guys woke this crap up again, now it's got to be rehashed again. You can see this big brown ring that goes all around the frickin' lake. What do you think that's from? All you geniuses out there. What do you suppose that big brown ring is all the way around there? Well, that's how much the water level fluctuates up and down. This is a water capture lake. It's made to capture water that they then disperse down to reservoirs that then disperses it to Southern California. And this lake will fluctuate up to 5 feet, depending on how long they let the water build up and store it. And it had literally rained monsoons a week before that party. And then 2 days after the party, it rained to beat hell. So much so, it washed all the tire tracks away. And when the police were there, and you can go look at the video, the water ring was clear up here almost to the damn green part. So it was more than 2 feet. It was like 3.5 feet the water was up, and it was brown, full of sediment from the rain. So the police didn't have, thank you, the police did not have the luxury of side scan sonar, the lake down 3 feet from where it was, the up, I heard 3.5 feet and 3 feet both. From the pictures, it looks like a good 3.5 feet to me. If you go look at the day the police were there and then compare that water ring to when you guys were there, there's about 3 more feet of bank showing. Maybe more. So why you would say that, knowing the controversy that's been carried on through just normal curiosity and people that are just unwilling to educate themselves or even digest any facts, to ridiculous cartoon Scooby-Doo theories from mediocre YouTubers that had it in their head they were better than everybody at it. So they could just pay money and show up on random podcasts and pick out suspects. And then make up stories about how they did it. But listen to some more. It really does aggravate me that I even have to make this damn video. It really does. It pisses me off. I'm going to be honest with you. I had more faith in you than this, DutyRon. I really did. And I am fucking really disappointed that this whole conspiracy shit, you guys perpetuated it again.
Across it, and we were just like, okay, well, this.
When you knew damn well all that shit had already been gone over. How these two guys can't know that the water was down after all, I would think if you're going to wildly speculate about something, the least you could do would be to digest all the facts. So how you would not know and go, okay, well, now wait, the water was way up when the police were there and was way down when we got there. We do this for a living every day. They don't. The water was full of sediment when they were there. It was crystal clear when we were there. I don't understand.
Has to be something, probably a boat, maybe like.
Let me back that up a little bit here. Sorry, I lost my place.
In my brain is what makes that suspicious is we still don't know. Is there not a possibility that once it was searched and cleared, that then the vehicle was put in the water?
No, we know for absolute certain But that didn't happen. We know for absolute certain, beyond any shadow of any doubt whatsoever, that didn't happen. Because we have a video that shows us what happened. We have 3 separate police departments that are satisfied with the video, are satisfied with the people they interviewed, are satisfied with the case. So much so that they said there was absolutely no foul play of any kind. Her friends, her high school friends, her peers, her classmates, her friends didn't do anything to her. And they sure as hell didn't take her car nowhere and bring it back and put it in the water. It's absurd. That's a TV show, a movie, not real life.
I'm just,
and that's not to add speculation, but it's just kind of crazy how they would have missed it. Now, the other side of this is that, you know, the water level went down a little bit, like a couple feet, since they had searched it. So maybe that.
Look at how much brown you guys had. And then now go look at the pictures. Even the pictures I just showed you, there's not that much brown showing. If you go look at the videos when the news clips of the helicopters flying over when the police were there searching 2 weeks earlier, 2.5 weeks earlier, they had about half that ring. Buddy, Mr. I don't want to add to speculation, but I'll go ahead and speculate.
That's why we could see it through the drone at high noon or 2 o'clock or so. But I just, it doesn't make any sense to any of us how it got missed, because we had just stumbled across it and we were just like, okay, well, this has to be something, probably a boat. Maybe, like, personally, we thought it was a boat initially. Like, how else could it be anything else? And then we called the other team members over. They scanned it and then also got a magnet on it. And then we were just like, okay, this is something else.
Well, that's not even true what you just said. We watched the video. That's not what happened. You guys saw it, weren't sure what it was, then switched to the what? What did you switch to? You switched to your what? Side scan sonar. And zoomed in on it. Then realized it was a automobile. Then put a magnet on it. You think the police had one of them side scan sonars? And hundreds of hours of use? I think not. They had basically a damn fish finder. In high sediment, high water, higher water than you were in by 3 to 3.5 feet. And very little training, I guarantee you. Yeah, so you forgot the whole side scan sonar thing, didn't you? That's how you realized it was a car. Before that, you just weren't sure. It probably looked like a log on the equipment they had. They've probably never even found a car with it before, so they don't even know what a car would look like on sonar.
This image freaks me out, and I'm going to let you go and talk, Ed, about this. But when I saw this, I was just like, how in God's name? I was actually embarrassed for the amount of the numbers that were thrown out there. And I have it written down, the man hours and all the agencies and all of that stuff. It's irrelevant right now. But the bottom line is when you look at this image, I just don't know. Ed,
Well, how's come you didn't see it on any of the news helicopters 2 weeks earlier that were flying over every day and showing video every day on TV, all over the internet? It's easy to pick something out when it's targeted. You'd have never seen that on a flyover with no markers. And he sure as hell wouldn't have seen it in 3 foot deeper water and with sediment from the rain, mud in it, mud floating in the water from rainstorms. So much it washed all the tire tracks away. So much it had the lake up 3 or 4 feet from where it was that day. You wouldn't have seen it. Guarantee you wouldn't have seen it. And that's why nobody's seen it. Unbelievable. Let's throw 2 markers on something, tell you what it is that's there, show you where it's at, and then you tell us, golly, I can see that so good. Those markers weren't there. You wouldn't even be able to know what it was. You'd think that was just some light spot in the water. You know what it is, and it's marked. So yeah, now it looks simple to see.
go ahead with your thought.
I think the question about could this car have come into the lake after they did the search has been answered by the forestry camera videos that show that night that car drove into the lake.
Bingo. But oh no. We got to start speculation about that.
At 12:33, when the last ping from her phone went off, it all coincides. But we never got confirmation if that was we know, and Devin, you could speak to this. I'm going to put you full screen as I say this, Devin. You know, as somebody in the industry, that anything can be recreated.
Oh.
You can spoof any type of footage of a car with lights going into a water at a location. If you use these editing tools, it's a possibility. And what I am saying as a retired investigator, as a retired NYPD detective, and Ed, you know all about this stuff, until it is vetted 100%, and we never got full confirmation. Although when I made that phone call down to the local sheriffs and the FBI during this case, I was told by one of the sheriffs at Placer County that they vetted that.
Do you hear what you just said? I'm going to remind you again. There are, believe me, and maybe you don't see it over where you're at, but on my channel, I can tell you there are some low IQ people that live on YouTube digesting this crap, and they've got the common sense of a rock. And you just said that, a video can be made and anybody can do a video and anybody can edit a video. And this video was never vetted. But then when I called the sheriff's department, they told me they vetted it. Well, who the hell are you? When did the Truckee Police Department and the Nevada State Police be under any obligation to give DutyRon, a true crime YouTuber, all their evidence to vet? And then I'll ask you, does it really need vetted? I mean, some things don't need vetted because they have enough common sense attached to them and enough likeliness attached to them and enough awareness attached to them that they vet themselves. Like that video vets itself. How's it vet itself? Well, it's pretty simple. That is a security cam footage from a Forestry Service fire tower. It is online. The videos are online in a timeline for people to see. someone would have had to have, this is what I mean by this cartoon, open-ended, cartoon-like conspiracy shit. Yes, someone could edit a video making car lights look like they're going in the water. They sure as heck could. And if a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass on the ground everywhere he went. They're both neither here nor there in this case, because what somebody can't do, what somebody couldn't have done, what somebody wouldn't have done is break into the Forestry Service's private servers and tunnel into their DVR system and pull the video out that was recording the night that happened, and then put their fake video in there with the exact timeline matched to exactly when her phone quit pinging, knowing ahead of time that Adventures with Purpose would find the car. You see how it vets itself? It doesn't need to be vetted, really, because common sense vets it. That could never happen anywhere but Hollywood. What you're suggesting. And you, of all people, ought to know that. Yes, someone could make a video of car lights. What they couldn't do is tunnel in to the Forestry Service's private VPN and then tunnel into their DVR system and pull a video out of sequence and replace it with their own in hopes that some random person would find it after Adventures with Purpose found the car. You understand that is how the forestry video came to be, right? People can go there and look at the videos from the fire tower. And they're labeled in sequence day by day by day. And somebody just had the wherewithal to go look at that day. And they went, oh, I'll be damned. Right when her cell phone quit pinging, watch this. The police looked at it and went, I'll be damned. There it is. But for you to suggest that could be faked somehow and trick 3 departments and a private investigator that the family hired, trick 3 departments and a private investigator because they knew ahead of time the car would be found by Adventures with Purpose, and they would need this edited video in the Forestry Service fire tower because some random person was going to stumble across the video from that night and go, oh, damn, look. These people, these criminals, these high school kids were so thrifty that they were able to take the car somewhere and hide it for a week, break into the Forestry Service VPN, tunnel into their fire tower camera DVR, take a video out of the timeline sequence, make their own video to put in that shows a car going in the water the exact second that her cell phone quits pinging, knowing ahead of time. They're so smart, so clever, high school kids. So smart, so clever. They knew ahead of time somebody would stumble on that video and give it to the police, and Adventures with Purpose would find the car. And it would all come together just like a well-oiled machine. Some high school kids at a graduation party. I think some of you need to take a break. I think some of you need to take a break from YouTube. You need to take a break from true crime. You need to take a break from the TV. You need to take a break from the late night spooky stories. You need to spend a little time digesting some facts and try to see if you can find your common sense again. I am really disappointed, dude. For somebody that claims to be a retired investigator, to make that big of a leap. And now you put this shit out there and these people that you can't get it out of their head now. That it was just an auto accident. Her friends didn't do nothing to her. They're high school kids. Jesus.
Forest video.
Mm.
Now that was
Yeah.
verbally, and I'm not investigating the case.
Mhm.
They told me they vetted that video. Remember, Ed? I told you about that.
Right. I mean, you could download the video.
There you are twice saying, sheriffs told me they vetted it. The police told me they vetted it. We've never vetted that video. So you have to vet it before it's genuine? That's the only way the video will ever be genuine is if you vet it. The Nevada State Police vetting it, that's not good enough. Nevada County Sheriff's Department vetting it, not good enough. Truckee Police Department vetting it, not good enough. Forestry Service vetting it, not good enough. Private investigator and vetting it, not good enough. Several local news networks vetting it, not good enough. DutyRon's got to vet it. Then it'll be, it can be believed. But not till then, anything's possible. You could make a video and them kids could have took that car and hid it somewhere and brought it back days later and put it in the water. Them kids. Them pesky kids.
Video from the public
Forestry. Yeah.
access of the cameras
Right.
and then manipulated afterwards. But the actual video is still on the servers of the forest department.
Right.
You're not going to be able to change that unless you hack in and you're
So,
you get
gentlemen,
really crazy.
how? So, gentlemen, it brings me to how in God's name did somebody miss this? And this is a grainy.
You got two guys sitting there that make a living finding people in cars in the water that the police couldn't find. And there are several YouTube channels hammering out a living, finding people in their car. But that's not good enough, right? Because, geniuses and everything. Just geniuses and everything. Right? None of that's good enough.
Video from a helicopter that was around while this was all going down. So this is footage from KCRA.
And you would have never saw that if it didn't have them two markers beside it and you knowing that that's what it is. It would just look like a cloud in the water. And that was with the water down 3.5 feet and crystal clear, not full of sediment from rain, and up 3.5 feet from where it is now.
Channel 3. But look, they're zooming in there and there's a diver going over to it. This is why people are going crazy. And this is why the conspiracy theories are existing, because people are.
No, it's because people like you keep perpetuating it. Instead of perpetuating the facts, I'm sorry, dude. I'm aggravated because you just talked out of both sides of your mouth. One, you say, but there's this forestry video. It's still on the forestry server website. It's still on their DVR. You can go download it and watch it yourself. And the sheriff's department and the Nevada State Police told me it was vetted. But somebody could have made that video and put it on there. TV show, movie, true crime and all. Now you're suggesting armchair quarterbacking, thinking some dudes flying over in a helicopter when the water's up 3.5 feet higher than it is now, muddy from the rain, are going to see this dark spot in the water and know that it's a car. Well, you've got two markers beside it, and you got two people telling you that's what it is. Sitting right below you, there on that screen are two dudes that make a living finding cars in the water that the police couldn't find. They used to belong to another YouTube channel that makes a living finding cars in the water. It's just, it's very common for people to just look
Mm-hmm.
how
Uh,
many.
in the water in their car. It's so common that there are several YouTube channels hammering out a living, finding people in their car in the water that the police couldn't find. Many of these people have been found right where the police looked. So why?
Those two guys sitting there with you ought to know that. The last organization they were with found a car right where the police had searched. The family had even searched there. And they go there and boom, find the car. It happens all the time. Very common.
Why it's so lost on everyone that this one case, it's just, it makes no sense to me. And it's like everybody wants this to be a conspiracy, so much so that they're willing to adopt far-fetched, wild assumptions and cartoon-level conspiracies while they completely reject and or ignore facts, common sense, humanality, and likeliness. This is just one of the many YouTube channels that find missing people in the water, in their car, that the police could not find. We can look time and time again. Here's another YouTube channel. They found several people. It just, how many times does this have to be hammered into everyone's head that it is not unusual for someone to end up in the water in their car and the police not find them? And no, you don't have to be intoxicated to make a wrong turn and end up in the water. It happens to people in broad daylight. It happens to people at night. It happens to people in the rain. It happens to people when the sun's shining. It's a thing that happens to humans. In fact, in my own neighborhood, an elderly couple went off the road and ended up at the bottom of a farm pond that was over 300 yards from the road. And they were in there for almost a month before the police found them. It is not unusual.
So let's look at some statistics. Since, you know, everybody wants to ignore facts, let's take a look at some statistics here. So how many people a year are found in their car perished in the water? How many do you think it is? Because it's 1,200 to 1,500 vehicles end up in the water, resulting in 400 to 600 deaths every single year. That's how common it is. Now, let me tell you what's uncommon. You want to know what's uncommon? A bunch of high school kids, for no apparent reason, doing something to some classmate and then hide in their car for 2 weeks till the police are done, because they knew ahead of time But the police would search the lake, and then they wait till the police were done searching the lake, and then they'd take the car and put it in. And nobody would see them at this family park where there's over 300 people a day year round. On a very busy road in and out of there. They're going to bring this car back and put it in the water with her in it at the exact spot where they made it look like a car went in the water on a video they made ahead of time. And then they hacked into the state's DVR system and cherry-picked a video out of the timeline and replaced it with their fake one that was so good it tricked 3 police departments and a private investigator. See, that's probably what didn't happen, right? That's unlikely. What's likely? Well, what's the most likely thing to have happened? Well, she drove in the water. Like 1,200 to 1,500 people do every year, resulting in 400 to 600 people perishing. I mean, I don't know what else can be said to drive that point home. You got people sitting there that make a living finding cars in the water that people that the police couldn't find. Multiple other YouTube channels make a living finding cars in the water with people in them that the police could not find. And yet you sat there and perpetuated conspiracy because a car ended up in the water and the police couldn't find it. But some experts with a side scan sonar did. Then there's the argument I've heard time and time again. Every open-ended question has been answered very rationally. They follow common sense. It follows what is most likely to have happened. Now, I think I've more than established that it is more likely that a vehicle would end up in the water and the police not be able to find it than the likelihood of a bunch of high school kids pulling off some 4-layer conspiracy. Knee jerk after they did something to a girl at a party. Or are you insinuating that this was a big, huge, well thought out plot way ahead of time? Because what you're suggesting is they did something to her at this party, and then all of a sudden they were clever enough to build this 3-layer conspiracy to cover it up. You would rather take that road than the more likely scenario that it's very common for a car to end up in the water and the police not be able to find it. Knowing the facts that you know, water was up 3 to 3.5 feet full of sediment from rain. You can see the car in the water on that picture because you know what it is and it's marked. Taking markers off there and be looking blind, and you wouldn't, that little dot wouldn't look like nothing to you. I think it's more likely, very much more likely, that the Forestry Service security cam footage is what it is. than the likelihood that some high school kids knee jerk whipped up a video that tricked 3 departments after having to hack into a secure server and then hack into a secure DVR system and then hack into a secure website and replace a video with their video. If that could even be done, I don't think it could be done, to tell you the truth, because the timeline would get broken. The DVR would never adopt that hacked video as the video that belongs on that timeline. So it's way more likely the police couldn't find the car. Way more likely that the forestry video is what it is. And in fact, the evidence bears that. The common sense bears that. But we're still going to keep pushing this ridiculous conspiracy of what? Let's say let's say this is a Scooby-Doo episode. Why would these high school kids want to do something to her? Good grief. And why would they all? I'm going to tell you something. Getting high school kids to keep a secret, about impossible. And secondly, you wouldn't get every kid to get on board with it. Sorry, but you wouldn't. So moving on to more of the conspiracy that I keep hearing get repeated, that's been answered multiple times. And that is that, well, she wasn't intoxicated. So, there was nothing in her system. So that really kills this idea that she was, intoxicated and drove in the water. No, you don't have to be drunk to make a wrong turn at night in the forest and drive your car in the water, especially when you're a brand new driver. Or there's the other side of that coin that the coroners spoke about in his report to the sheriff, that the amount of time that she was underwater would greatly reduce the toxicity level of just alcohol in the system, would greatly reduce it. And so we don't know that still. That is an unanswered question, whether she was sober or had too much to drink. There's no way to say for sure. But if she was sober, it doesn't change anything. You could certainly make a wrong turn, drive into the water at night, being a brand new driver. And you guys got to understand that water, that bank, you guys are too used to looking at aerial shots. That bank is very steep. It's a pretty steep angle down to the water. And so if you came driving down that peninsula thinking you were on the road out of there, by the time you realized that there was water in front of you, it would be too late. And in fact, that is what we see. We clearly see that take place on the forestry video of her stomp the brakes and jerk the wheel and flip that car right over. Those CRVs set high anyway. They're prone to rolling over. The car was already off camber by 30 degrees. She stomped the brake, whipped the wheel, and that thing flipped on its top and sunk so fast because the windows were down. 2 of the windows were open. And with it being on its roof, the water just rushed in. And and we see that take place. That's the only reason I'm saying that. This isn't something I'm pulling out of my ass. We can see it take place. We see those headlights disappear rapidly on that video. So, and there's a dent in the roof of the car right at the top of the windshield. The mirror is broke. Where the car rolled over, broke the mirror, flipped on its top, sunk. Then there's the other conspiracy. Well, something had to happen to her before, and they put her in the water because there was no water in her lungs. How many times you hear that one? Doesn't mean anything. Happens all the time. Let's see what the statistics are. All you investigators, you retired New York investigators, and you true crime podcasters, and you SoundCloud rappers that are better at it than everybody. Let's see what the statistics say. Maybe that would matter, huh? Like to go along with the likelihood. Okay, so at this point, we have to measure the totality of where we are. And the totality is cars do end up in the water all the time. Police can't find them. So much so, the two guys right there on that panel make a living doing it. Multiple YouTube channels make a living doing it. The national statistics are 1,200 to 1,500 people a year end up in the water in their car. 400 to 600 of them die. That's irrefutable. We have a video of that very thing happening. The likelihood of that video being cherry picked out of there by a bunch of high school kids, knee jerk, and edited well enough to trick 3 departments and a private investigator. If it could even be done, I don't think it could be. And I'm pretty computer savvy. I don't think you can go into a security cam timeline and chop and patch pieces in and the timeline stay accurate. I don't think you can do it. Prove me wrong, I guess. But it's very common for people to die of asphyxiation and their lungs not filled with water. Let's see what the statistics about that say. I wish I didn't even have to do any of this. So if we take a look, this is called, it says in most people, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Some part in your throat relaxes sometime after unconsciousness due to hypoxia or hypoxia in the larynx, and water can then enter the lung, causing a wet drowning. However, 7 to 10% of people maintain this seal until cardiac arrest. This has been called dry drowning, as no water enters the lung. So 7 to 10% of people who drowned don't have water in their lungs. That's a significant amount of people, folks. We're not talking about people that drowned in a car. We're talking about people that drown per year, period. So I just want to drive this home, because I know for a fact that the family listens. And it's so bothersome to me to listen to you people continue to perpetuate these conspiracies. So I'm going to just drive this home. So let's see how many people do drown a year. Let's take a look at that. Let's see how many people a year drowned. That would be an interesting thing to know. Then we can see how much 7% is. So let's do that. Holy cow. All right. Oh, so there are an estimated 320,000 annual drownings a year. And if 7% of the people that drowned, their lungs don't fill up with water, let's see how many people that is. Get the old trusty calculator, and we're going to say 320,000 people. $22,400 people per year drowned doing what we call a dry drowning. Dry drowning. Google it yourself. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a true crime guy. I'm just a knucklehead auto mechanic with common sense. And when I look at things, from a very early age, I've learned to go with what is most likely and work backwards from there. And it's always done me well. And if we look at the totality of evidence in this case, everything that brought us to this point, and then we consider out of 320,000 people a year that drown, 22,400 of them have no water in their lung. They dry drown. Then what is the most likely scenario here? But then there's one more layer of common sense, likeliness, higher probability than a conspiracy where a bunch of high school kids or two YouTubers did something dastardly and were able to pull off a 3 or 4 layer Scooby-Doo episode conspiracy where they, bring a car back to a reservoir and put it in the water in a place where you can camp anywhere. And there's 300 people a day there, average. A car that's being looked for by the whole town. You're going to bring it back here and put it in the water. And then you're going to break into the Forestry Service VPN server and then hack into their DVR system and mess with a security camera's timeline with fake video to now knowing that lots of people end up in the water in a car and the police can't find them. We know for absolute certain, it's not a theory, it's not an idea, it's not an opinion. The water was up 3 to 3.5 feet and very silty when the police were there searching. You can see it yourself. The videos are up. They're all over YouTube. Go look. Compare the how much bank is showing. And so the totality of all that, given that totality, we don't need to really be vetting much because now common sense is taken over. Likelihood is taken over. Facts have taken over. Consistency is taken over. There's also the very real, and I mean the very real, very common possibility that there was an air pocket in the back of the car. You see that car, and I meant to get a prop. Hold on one sec. I shall be right back. Okay, so turn this back on. So that car was, when it hit the water, she came down the bank, saw there was water. She jerked the wheel. The car flipped because it was already off camber, and it was laying on the bottom like this. That bank is about that steep. And she was found up here in the back of an SUV. There is a very real possibility, very high likelihood, that there was an air pocket. And this is something that happens quite often. And the two guys that sitting there that do this for a living, I'm sure have seen this, heard it, been told it. People can run out of oxygen and they're unconscious before they go in the water because they head up, natural instinct, head up and high where you think there's air, head up and high where you think you can get out, and there's an air pocket there, and they'll stay there hoping somebody's coming for them, breathing that air, and pretty soon it fills up with carbon monoxide, which is a deadly killer. It's a silent killer, and you will breathe yourself unconscious without ever knowing, and then you're never going to breathe in water for your lungs to fill up, and that little flapper thing, whatever they call it, that's in your throat is going to be closed. So there's two possibilities as to why there would have been no water in her lung that are high, very much more likely than a bunch of high school kids hiding a body for 2 weeks and hiding a car for 2 weeks and bringing a car, risking just fucking Scooby-Doo, man, risking getting caught bringing a body and a car back to a very popular, a very open, a very used reservoir. And they don't, you're telling me they wouldn't have had the instinct to like go way back in the back behind Boca or something where there was like no chance nobody could see? No, they go right in the front of Prosser, right bam in the part everybody can see, and put the car in the water. Guys. And then they edit a freaking Forestry Service security cam video. You guys, man, I'm so embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for you. I thought the whole point of having those guys on and talking about that was to swat this stuff, not perpetuate it. When you literally talk out of both sides of your mouth. Oh, that video, we can't say for sure that video's been vetted because we didn't vet it. But, I talked to the sheriff's department and they vetted it. And I talked to the Nevada State Police and they vetted it. But by God, we haven't vetted it. It doesn't need vetted. It vets itself. It doesn't need vetted. Like, we don't have to prove water's wet. We know water's wet, and we know if you're underwater for too long as a human, you will drown. Those are two things in this case we don't have to prove, right? Because it's just common sense. It's something we know. Well, we also know that no kids broke into the state's DVR system and edited a security footage video that showed headlights going in the water at the exact moment her cell phone quit pinging. The likelihood is much higher that it was an auto accident, and much higher that I just hate to quit repeating myself. I'll drop the link if anybody's got something to add. I've said my piece. So don't look at me sideways when I see you guys still talking this conspiracy stuff and I call you a dumbass. Because I'm going to call people out that do it from now on. I'm going to make a video and I'm going to call them out. And I'm going to smother them with facts and just make you look like a fool. It's time for you guys to stop this shit. For God's sakes, man. No high school kids did anything nefarious and pulled off some Scooby-Doo level 3-layer conspiracy. It didn't happen. And your SoundCloud rapper was talking out his ass. Not one thing he said was accurate. Not one single syllable that came out of his mouth concerning this case was even remotely accurate. Not one person he accused did anything wrong. He put words in Ronnie Jones' mouth that Ronnie Jones never spoke. When he narrated what Ronnie Jones said, it was like he was making up a story about something completely different, because what Ronnie Jones said and what Upchurch said he said were two completely different things. And those videos are there for anybody to watch. He absolutely, cataclysmically, positively made every bit of that shit up out of thin air. Ronnie Jones simply said, I had two cousins that go to school there. They were there. And a few days afterwards, when they saw Kylie's poster, they said, we do recall seeing that girl a couple of times throughout the night. And that is the totality of what Ronnie Jones said. Everything else is shit Upchurch made up. And I mean made up. Out of thin air. He never said he saw any drugs. He never said she was on drugs. He never said she was drunk. He never said he was there. None of that happened, kids. He simply said, had two cousins, go to school there. They went to that party. They stopped out there. They were there for a couple hours. They did recall seeing Kylie a couple of times throughout the night. She kind of appeared to be intoxicated, and we did see her holding what appeared to be a drink. That is the totality of what that man said. Go listen to it for yourself. Don't listen to Upchurch narrate it. Just listen to him. And he said, when I was a teenager, I went there because that's the hangout place. Kids go out there and party every weekend. There was a place like that where I grew up called Clear Creek. If you went there on a Friday or Saturday night, you'd find 15, 20 kids, 80. Some nights there'd be 100. Some nights there'd be 50. Some nights there'd be 3. But there was always a party out there. The entire time I was a teenager, the entire time I was in high school. You could never not go out there and there not be people there partying. And that was exactly the way Prosser is. It's a very popular place. It's a teen hangout because you can be there after dark. That's the draw. That's why the kids go there to party, because they can be there after dark. Yes, there was a specific party that night, but it wasn't unusual for there to be parties there. And this had gone on for 3 generations. Xana May never said she saw a very fine family having a cookout. She never said that. Upchurch said she said that. That ain't what she said. She said she found a video on Snapchat that showed a fine looking Spanish family having a picnic. And she wanted to find that picnic area. That was one of her goals when she went kayaking there that day, to find that really cool looking picnic area that she saw this Spanish family having a cookout at on a Snapchat video. Not her video. One somebody uploaded to Snapchat. And she played it on her video. She played that video. Was never her video. She never downloaded it. She never edited it. She simply went to Snapchat and played it. That's it. Everything else is shit Upchurch made up out of thin air. Well, Upchurch and Fred Swartz made it up out of thin air. So, guys want to keep making fools of yourself? Go ahead. I'm very disappointed that people I trusted to be mature, assumed would be mature, I thought that, I honestly believed that, oh man, honest to gosh, my first thought was, oh wow, DutyRon's going to have those guys on from, adventures, and they're going to put all these rumors to bed finally. And what do you guys do? Ignore your own evidence, ignore your own common sense, ignore the likeliness, discount things that have been already debunked a dozen times over and over, and perpetuate these ridiculous conspiracies that people keep repeating. And I just want you guys to know that I got it from the horse's mouth that the family is watching this stuff. So when you do it, just know who's watching you. And I can't speak for anybody but myself. If that was my child, I'd be livid. I'd want to come and meet you face to face. I mean, I would be livid. So I'll hit a few comments here. And as you all know, weeknight, I can't be on here too terribly late. But get to see some comments here. Beachside Redneck. Here we go with more harassment. More harassment from Upchurch's cult. That's the kind of stuff that's going to do you in, Swartz, right there. That's stuff that you started, you perpetuated. You're the one that put my phone number out. Right. Right. And amazing 80. The other thing about that really has got to be sunk in. Okay. Somebody unrelated to the case stumbled on that video. Somebody that knew those videos were available online just had the wherewithal to go, wow, I remember that forestry camera, you can see the lake. I'm going to watch that and see if I see anything. And lo and behold, that's how it all came about. For these high school kids to make all these predictions, edit a video, break in the state's VPN, break in the DVR, edit a video, replace it, exact time. It's just absurd to suggest such a thing. I'm telling you, the toughest character Thelma and Shaggy ever took on couldn't pull that off, let alone a bunch of high school kids. So, yeah, I'm so that's another one's disappointing. Yeah. Pretty easy to trick small-minded people. I know, man. Did this year fly by or what, Native? Holy cow. Native says he can't believe it's Christmas and headed to New Year's already. It seems like this year just zipped. I had stuff I was going to get done this year that I didn't get to. I did get my MG buttoned up. I can drive it now. I wanted to get the rest of them parts put on Mikuta. Never got around to it. I was going to see, there's a whole part of my garage I've never shown on video, but there's like a lean-to on the side of the garage. When I first built the garage, there was a 6x6 garage door there, and that opened to a patio carport that you could park the car under. Well, I've since closed that in and insulated it. And, but I still got to put a doorway in. I had closed that 6x6 door off. Well, now I'm going to put glass sliding doors there, I think. But anyway, I was going to get that finished. I never got around to it. I was going to put snow guards on I put a metal roof on the house, and I never put the snow guards on, and I never got to it. So I'm not going to have no snow guards on there. Well, unless some miracle I get them on there in the next 6 weeks before it really gets bitching cold, which I doubt. So who knows? You guys are probably up on stuff I don't know anything about. And it did. I mean, this year just zipped by. Yeah. I don't blame you. I wouldn't want that trash on my guitar either. Guy give you a gift and then talk bad about you for taking it. There you go. Yeah. Well, listen, it's true. Okay, it's true. SoundCloud rapper, that is, it's true. And with the numbers he's doing now, 30,000 views, 60,000 views. Music takes a week to get 100,000 views with 3 million subscribers. Those are just facts of reality. And that is 100%. Well, not 100, 90%. It's 90% Wade Deaver, Eyes McSheffett, Rusty Truck, Ryan Nichols, William Swanson. Those guys did that. Okay. They've crushed his algorithm with the nastiness. I heard, and while we're on the subject, I mean, I might as well share it. I heard one of the reaction channels that you could just about set your watch that if Upchurch put up any new music, he would do a reaction video to it. He's not a huge reaction channel, but he's not a little one either. And I heard him specifically say the reason why he doesn't do any reaction videos to Upchurch music anymore is because of Crack Squad. He don't want a bunch of people coming at him, bothering him, attacking him, insulting him, spamming his channel and all that he's seen him do to other people. He don't want no part of it. Heard him say it specifically. And there ain't hardly any of the diehard reaction channels that literally that is what, if you are a SoundCloud rapper, okay, that is promoting yourself on YouTube, and that's the only way to let your fans know about your music. You have no other way because you're not on the radio. There ain't nobody on the radio promoting you. So the only way anybody's even going to know that you put out a new song or you're there is from your YouTube channel. You want as many reaction channels as possible doing reactions. I mean, you just do. You better. And all the diehard ones are gone. And it's because of Wade Deaver, Rusty Truck, Frederick Swartz, William Swanson, Ryan Nichols. That's why. And they can lie to themselves. They can backpedal. They can pretend all they want. But all you got to do is go look at the views. All you got to do is go look at the last 8 months of releases and see where'd all the reaction channels go. Where'd they go? Well, why aren't they doing it anymore? You can go to Social Blade, make your little 3-year-long bar graph, and check it out. Take a look at it yourself. The one that gets me is the buyers. Whew. That took a nosedive. See, unfortunately, the small-minded people that were too dumb to know they were destroying the man's brand and his algorithm and likeness and all that, to the point where his channel's shadow banned. They were too dumb to know they were doing that. They're also too dumb to know that when you run over there or he's plastering some stats from Spotify, those are total running totals. Those aren't current. Those are the total amount forever. And to think that amount of stature was there, that's gone now, you would think that would invoke something inside of him to say, hey, you stupid SOBs, quit being nasty to people with the Creek Squad badge. Stop doing it. You're killing me over here. But he don't. His ego's too big. Same reason he would never apologize to these people. He'd rather get sued in federal court, have his brand destroyed than to say, man, I shouldn't have said that about a bunch of innocent people. But they're too dumb to know that those stats, that's a running totality. That's the total amount forever. Check it for this year. Check it for last year. And then check it for the year before that. And then you come back here and tell me with a straight face that nothing's changed. And then you go to Social Blade and you do the same thing. You make yourself a 3-year-long pie chart. And you'll see that it made a massive difference. And people do not go back and repurchase music. So if you put out an album and you sell 10 million copies, you're only going to sell 10 million copies to that song once. You're not going to sell 10 million copies again on the same song. You got to write a new one just as good. Right? That money's already been fucking spent. It's gone. So he should be real proud of Creek Squad right now, because it is now an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment to admit you were ever part of that. So, that being said, it says Crack Squad was the model for the Whitaker. No doubt, man. Some of them for sure. Man, there's about 3 of them that you can count for sure that will be in my comments on every video. And they are the dumbest humans you're ever going to run across. They hear things that were never said. They see things that were never in a video. They read stuff that was never typed, and then they swear up and down it's real. And then when they have an original idea, it's so dumb it doesn't make sense. It's a heck of a bunch. And I'll tell you what, man, if I had friends like the Swartz, who'd need enemies? Those guys, their buddies have ruined any chance of him having any court do anything for him. If he goes to court trying to get something, he'll probably likely get charged with something himself. They've made such a mockery, made a mockery out of his TPO attempt in video. The one he wasn't even supposed to talk about. His friends. While he's trying to get a prosecutor to believe his made up fairy tales, that I'm bothering him, when everybody that watches this channel knows it's the other way around. And there's 49 gig of evidence proving that, with stuff being, people admitting to sending stuff to my house as recent as today. As recent as today. And I enjoyed taking it over, giving it to the prosecutor to put with the other stuff. The D threats and the all-night phone calls and the 9-hour long P stream where I was called the P word 122 times by 7 of his friends. And I'll remind everybody, I've yet to even fully dox him. I showed a picture of his house. the town he lives in. No address, though, no street. They haven't never gave me that courtesy. So you guys can keep living in your little dreamland. You guys can pretend last year never happened. Nobody but you is ever going to believe that fairy tale because there's just way too much evidence and way too many witnesses. You can't troll somebody for a year and brag about it and make videos about it and then pretend it never happened. It's never going to work. Sorry. Just never going to work. I know. It's like, I'll tell you, the cop over here, you know what he compared it to is it's like, because they believe their own lies. I mean, they make something up out of thin air or grossly exaggerate something totally out of context and then literally discuss it like it's real. And it's just, you know, he said it just reminds you of kids with chocolate cake on their face, swearing up and down they never touched the chocolate cake. But yet they got it all over their hands, all over their face. And they're going, oh, I didn't eat the chocolate cake. Unbelievable. Yeah, you got some really good friends there, buddy. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. And yeah, guys, keep on compiling evidence, I guess. But you know, I don't mean any real disrespect, DutyRon, but I'm pretty disappointed, dude, because all you did, everything you said, you need to understand. When you perpetuated the ridiculous notion that somebody could have edited the fire tower video, then you go on to say that the police that were actually working on the case said they've edited it. What are you calling them liars? What are you doing there? But you understand, the minute you perpetuated that, a lot of very dense people are never going to hear anything else except that it's some conspiracy because they want it to be one so bad. And somebody of your stature should be perpetuating facts and the truth. And I'll say the same thing about the two guys you had on there. They, of all people, ought to know it's not unusual for the police not to find a car in the water. Seeing as how they make a living finding them. And you can't just leave out the whole side sonar stuff. We all watched it on the video. On the regular sonar, it just looked like an object, couldn't tell what it was. And you weren't sure yourself. So you got the side sonar that the police didn't have. You're experts, trained, use it every day. The police, lucky, maybe if they use it twice, it was probably donated. They probably had an hour-long crash course on how to use it. Water was up 3.5 feet. That was settled long ago. Local media talked about the water being up and down. The sheriff's department in their press briefing talked about that. They talked about it raining so hard it washed the tracks away. The whole tow truck guy thing was just utter nonsense. If that had any traction, the police would have went down that road, dude. There were 3 police departments investigating that thing. Come on, dude. You think 3 different investigation agencies would have just discounted something like that and not looked at it and checked it out. It was obviously a massive nothing burger, probably a car that looked like hers and a girl that was near the same age, and that was about the only likeness, truth be known. But it wasn't her, because she was in the water, because we watched her drive in the water the night before on a video. So why in the world you guys would put that bug back out there to be rehashed again, and you watch? There's going to be just loads of these simpletons rehashing that again now. So I don't know what you accomplished, but you sure as hell didn't do those high school kids there any favor of putting this behind them and processing it and moving on and getting closure. And you sure as hell didn't do the family any favors, because you, both of you know, all four of you know damn well that conspiracy stuff is far-fetched nonsense. And you just need to knock it off. Life's not a Hollywood movie. Everybody have a good night. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.